Hello YouTube, my name's Sean Connors and welcome back to Outsiders, and this week is my third show in the series that I'm now running on my channel. I'd like to take this opportunity as always to thank you all for tuning in, and I'm hoping to bring you a very exciting show this week with some interesting news, gossip, tips, and I also want to pose a question to the YouTube community at the end of the videos. And I think this is a great way of trying to encourage and support each other. And I think it's through the medium of video support. So it was Win at TowerGuard DM who suggested a call to arms, trying to get new people involved. I think our videos should also now start to try and encourage people to get into the hobby. So at the end of my show, I'm going to pose a question. I would really appreciate it if anybody who feels confident enough will pick up the camera, do a few minutes, little video reply, and just attach it via a comment back to this. Would be fantastic to get a few of your thoughts on that question. It can be answered by player or DM alike. Don't feel you have to lurk at the edges. Give us your views. It'd be really great to see them in video format. So I'm going to try and choose questions that are going to provoke some sort of response, good or bad, and hope that we can see where the general audience lies. It'd be useful to me personally from a designing point of view. So that's what I'm going to do from this point on. So another addition to the show. So let's move on to topics of news. Now behind me, what I'm using is, I've got my computer attached to my television, and I love that about modern technology. The things that you can now do are awesome. And I plan on using this in various ways, hopefully in the near future, for some ideas that I've got in my show. But it'll be really good when we're talking about bits of news. Although you won't be able to really see them very well on that camera at the moment, my plan is to upgrade the camera quite soon to a more high definition format, better sound quality, and I'm sure we'll all agree that's going to be needed, and then try to get into some more of an editing role on the camera and make it far more professional and slick finishing product. But for now, I'm going to use this. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to flick off the one I've currently got loaded up and come back to that second. And I'm just going to get ready. So I do apologise for turning away from the camera, but I just need a second to do this. And I will bring this up. Now, before I talk about this bit of news, I want to tell you all about something that's really exciting to me personally. I'm really looking forward to, I don't know if any of you know this bit of news, but it was something I came across and I thought, well, I'm surprised no one's been talking about it. They are doing a Gary Gygax film about his life story. And I was blown away with that. There's a huge budget going in, it looks absolutely fantastic, and I think it's going to elevate RPGs to a new audience, and also going to be very, very interesting indeed to see his thoughts, interview commentary about him and all that sort of thing. And I believe it's due to come out next year. I'm very excited about that. I hope you will be too, and it's just something I thought I'd mention. Now, my two bits of real RPG news this week, two things that I think have just come out over here in the UK, and I think they'll be new to the States as well. Two products that have come out. The first one is Dragon Age Set 2. Now, I reviewed Dragon Age. It's a very good introductory RPG. Like it a lot. There are some things about it, as I said in my video, please check it out if you haven't already done so, that I think could be improved upon. But the bottom line is they're releasing Set 2. Now, Set 2 will cover levels 6 through to 10, so 5 more levels. It talks in this set about the Grey Wardens, more additional stunt manoeuvres, and 40 new spells, plus expands on the current world that is Dragon Age. Overall, a very, very good set. It retails in the UK at £27. I suppose in the US you're probably looking about $40, I would guess. It probably is not going to be one of my to pick up lists immediately. I'm sure I'll get it in due course in time. But I'm going to be focusing on other products which are far more important at this time. But I thought I'd mention it because a number of people are great Dragon Age fans out there, and I still get emails from you guys, so I appreciate that. If anybody is new tuning in and don't know how to send off an email to me, let me give you that again, just in case you've not caught it in any of my videos. It's Sean, SEAN.Connors, CONNORS, .Connors 68 at hotmail.com. You're more than welcome. More than welcome. If any of you feel ballsy enough to send a letter to us in person if you prefer, I'm happy to take that medium as well. 49 Ericsson Close. We're in Daventry, in the UK. That's near Northamptonshire, NN11 0TP. You're more than welcome. It'd be great to get your feedback. Anyway, the second product I want to talk about, one I want to focus on actually, is a product that normally, and apologies for turning away from the camera while I set this up, I'm not the greatest, I will admit that with the computer, but I do like it a lot. Now this particular product, which I've just skipped past, I'm just going to bring up this because I'm probably going to read I'm probably going to read this verbatim, so apologies, I'm going to try and keep focus with you guys, but I think it's important to read this. Great product. It's called The Age of Treason. It's a RuneQuest 2 product. I'm not a RuneQuest fan, I have to be honest with you there. There are a number of reasons why, it's just not my thing. But this product would make me, I would definitely go out and get it. It's really good. It looks excellent, I can't wait to get it, and I really want to review this. So if you beat me to the punch on either of these two products, guys, and you do a review on either of them, then please attach a comment and a review on that product so people can pick up on it and find your channel, which would be a great way of obviously us all linking together. Now this particular product is a hardback book. Explore a whole new world of RuneQuest adventure. You are a citizen of a great empire ruled by an unseen and immortal emperor through his viceroy. A magically animated statue known as the Iron Simulacrum. I love the idea behind this. Beyond the empire's border lies new lands to conquer, and beyond those lie exotic new worlds to discover and explore. However, the greatest dangers are often close at hand, and even in the higher circles, there could be dangerous plots afoot. It's time to decide where your loyalties lie, because this is the age of treason. I love that idea. I write a lot of my stories in a very similar way. I love Machiavellian feel, the Borgias, the mafiosi. I love feels behind things where there's inter-stories and various things going on behind the scenes. Whether your players get involved or not, it looks like an awesome product. So definitely two things to check out this week. If you do get them or have them and can do a review on them, link a comment and let's see what you do, because that would be absolutely fantastic to get your thoughts and feelings first. Okay, so we're going to move on to a DM's Tips program, but first of all let me just take a swig of tea. And let's talk this week about something that we've skirted around the edges of quite a lot in my review shows. And this is really about that very fine line between ad-lib and planning, and the balance that lies in between the two schools. Because all DMs to some degree, good ones, have to have an ability to ad-lib. You have to. Because players are players. And I think the more you spend time in games, you'll understand the following, that your players will not do what you write down. Now, if you're forcing them, and one of the biggest problems a lot of DMs find themselves in is that they will follow a story. For example, let's say a Pathfinder adventure path is a good example. Those paths are very well written, but they're not definitive. It doesn't mean just because it's written a particular way that is exactly what the player's going to do. It'd be a miracle for an entire campaign of players just stick to it. In fact, it'd be very boring. So you have to be prepared as a DM to accept the challenge. If you're the type of person who's going to just keep trying to push the players back into the story or change it and move it around just so it suits, you're destroying the creativity of your players. And it's far better to accept that human nature will always be, the way I look at it, it's very simple. If I write something down, I look at all the what ifs. So if I write a story a particular way, what if the players don't do that? What would they most likely do? What could happen next? And look at all that. Because it's important. That governs your ability to ad-lib. And let me try and re-emphasise this so it's really crystal clear. And I hope that this comes across in the right way. The more familiar you are with what you've got around your stories, the world, the politics, the people, the planning that you have in terms of things go off course. So do you have NPCs that you can throw in, encounters that you can throw in, specifically if they have reasons and valid reasons behind them? How well and intricately do you know the world? Where will people be at a given time? What would happen? How do they operate? You know, that sounds massively complicated, and this is why I always say what you do is you start very, very small. So an example of starting small might be that the characters are given in a will the deeds to a keep, and they don't know each other at the beginning. That's what brings them together. They then decide, right, we need to go off and have a look at this keep. So who's currently at the keep? What's the situation near the keep? Is there a town nearby that's under their jurisdiction? What starts happening beyond the keep? So you'd start with the keep and you slowly start building it outwards into a game, a campaign world, and then bring in slowly the politics and the intrigue. But the better that you can actually look at a bigger area, thinking about all the repercussions, and the more familiar you are with it, you can find that perfect balance between ad-lib and planning. You can't really do, planning's an odd thing, because I've been known to write, and this is so true, and I think I've mentioned this in videos before, I've been known to write really complicated stories, really good ideas for stories, and the players never ever went near it. So you can put a lot of effort into something the players never want to do. I can't move it round because it becomes embarrassing once the players avoid it once or twice. It becomes really silly. And I learnt this a long time ago. So you just have to accept that if there's not a valid reason for the players doing it, and it's not really something that's going to hit their hotspots and appeal to them, they're not going to do it. And even if they do it, they might not do it the way you wrote it down. So you have to apply yourself. This skill about using all the things we've taught you, it's important if you want to get this yin and yang right, if you want to get it spot on. And it does take time, and it's simple. It's practice, practice, practice. Preparation can help to a degree, having your NPCs ready, having encounters that are logical and appropriate to buy you time if you need time. Thinking about, if ad-lib isn't your speciality, something that you can latch onto that the players say that you can run with, because it fits something you've got an idea on. It's good to let go. The most important thing you can do as a DM is let go sometimes. So that's why I share with you this week balance and planning, if you like, or if you prefer, ad-lib and planning and the balance that lies in between. It's understanding those nuances between the whole thing. Bring all the tips, start bringing them all together, and hopefully you'll find it of some real benefit in your games. And if you're the type of DM who is more ad-lib than planning, then you need to use the other side of it. It's a seesaw. So if you do more ad-lib than you do planning, that is equally not always that great, because you've got to remember all the details you tell your players. Because it is embarrassing if you say something and then have forgotten it and the players have written it down, and then they're telling you, well, no, actually what you said was you said this. It's a bit embarrassing that that's not right. It's better that you have somewhere in the middle. You've got to have some, or at least be good enough to have good detailed note-taking, or a way for that all to seem fluid. I often use a voice recorder if I'm going to run a more ad-lib session, so that I can go back over it, make notes, detailed notes afterwards, and then it seems very seamless to the players that I'd already planned it. But this is a deeper program for another time. But anyway, for now, that's been ad-lib and planning and the balance that lies in between. So let's move on now. Let's go on to something a little different. Okay. So, we're going to now talk about a random review that was given to me this week by one of my new subscribers. And apologies, I can't remember his name. Iverversium, I think it is, something like that. But he chose this particular product, and it's Skyrealms of Gygax. Now, I've only brought one of the 3 books out. Now, this product came out in 1985. Now, I picked this book for a reason. Now, the first thing is, I'm going to say this straight off the bat. I'm not going to review the system as such. And the reason is that the system of Skyrealms of Gygax I don't like. I was never a fan of it. It was overly complicated. It took ages to roll up characters. It reminded me an awful lot of Handmaster or Rollmaster and things like that, where it was so complicated. I mean, don't get me wrong, I admire people who want to try and stretch the RPG mechanics. So I think at the moment we are a little entrenched still in third era products. A lot of companies are still following that format. So anybody that breaks away and does something unique, I'm all up for it. Because that's how I want to, when I design stuff, that's how I want to be. I want it to be as unique as possible. So this was definitely very unique for its time period, Ballad 5. It's a system set on a world, and the idea behind it really was that at some point in the past, man had arrived on this world, had established a colony, something had happened, it got separated from the known colonies and then eventually lost, and many hundreds of years had gone by. So colony ships had landed, crash landed or whatever, and some of their species would have released out onto the landscape, some of them would survive, some of them wouldn't, and so on and so on and so on. And what the professor who wrote this game did is effectively he created what I would say is you've got this, on the one, this is a classic balance. On the one hand, you've got what I think is a poor, I don't like the system at all, I really hate it. And on the other hand, you've got the ecology of this world, this Skyrealms of Gygax world. You've got this ecology that is absolutely top drawer. It's right in the league of Middle Earth. It's so beautiful, and it's not all about elves and dwarves. I mean, this is why I got the Scolari book out, because what they did so well in this book, they've got various intelligent races, And if I just put up some pictures of them, I mean, some of them are beautiful. I'm going to try and pick out a couple. There's one here. These are the Kruger. Now, they very, very much look like cat-like people as a reason for that, because the professor basically has taken the emphasis of cat-like people and created this sentient beings for them called the Kruger. And the way they operate and they work and the type of weapons they use, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. And that goes throughout all of them. Here's the Ramians. I just absolutely love the detail on all the creatures that they put into this book. This book, if you took this book and you designed a world and literally took this straight into the world and then said to yourself, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to build my own storyline and use this package of unique creatures in it. Your players would love you for it, because it is so definitively different than anything I've ever seen. Now, it was called Skyrealms of Gygax because it had islands that, because of the geography, that lifted up from the surface. They were the Skyrealms. And I absolutely was enthralled by those Skyrealms. Loved the idea behind it, and this whole science and the mathematics behind it were incredibly ingenious. And for me, that alone was worth the books themselves. Now, if I was scoring the system, I would honestly say that for me, the system, and I'm not going to go into any details at all, because as I said, it's not my cup of tea at all. I'd give the system a very poor mark indeed. It's just really not my cup of tea. There's so many issues that I have with it. But if we talk about the ecology, we talk about the races, we talk about the equipment, the way that this world is set up, the look of it, the way the pictures are put together, the uniqueness of the whole thing, that would score incredibly highly. It'd be two different sides of the same scale. On the one hand, one unfortunately drags down the other. So although the rating of this is only going to be a 2, it would have been so much higher with a more thoughtful system that really reflected, I feel, in my view, what this world had to offer. I just feel the system failed it, which is a terrible shame. And I think that's probably the reason why it never really took off, because everything else about this is without a doubt its top draw. And so for that reason, and that reason only, I would score this a 2. Now, this isn't an in-depth review of the product. As I say, these random reviews are just to give you a skimp of something unique, skimp of something a little different, maybe a skimp of something that hasn't been seen for a while. But if you get a chance and do come across this, honestly, I'm just going to flick a few pages. I love all the simplistic maps in these books. I love the way that they've done them, so it's literally you could give that to the players and they can colour it into their heart's content. The little snippets of information around the futuristic tech that still exists out there, again, beautifully done. It's lovely, and the creatures, I mean, you could go on. I mean, they capture the imagination so well in the books. So for me, really top draw that, and it's just a shame about the system. But if you get a chance and you pick this up, it's worth it. Definitely worth it. So that's been Skyrealms of Gygax. I'm not going to go into too much depth there. Now that leads me into this part of the programme. Do bear with me, I'm just going to take a drink and just check out what we're doing for time. We're doing very well for time. Leads me into my final part today. I want to pose a question for the greater audience this week. I will be touching on a few of your questions as well in a moment, but I want to pose a question to you all, and I'll answer my own question as well. So my question this week is simply this. If you, from either a DMing or player perspective, if there was a book that you could pick up or a game of some kind, what would it have to contain? Something in it, just if you could nail it to one thing, whether it be a mechanic, an idea, something. What would that something be that would make you buy it there and then? Now let me quantify that by giving you my own example of what it would need to do for me to buy something without even if it was not something I would normally pick up, the genre or anything like that. You've already seen today in the Act of Treason, that's something I wouldn't normally pick up purely because the way it's been described, I'd buy it. But this is more specific, so let me give you a more specific answer. If a game comes out that touches on these points, I'd buy it. So remember the days, for those old DMs and people around who've been around a long time, who know the system, Pendragon had a fantastic feel to it, because one of the things I found when I've been role-playing a lot over the last few years that really irks me and bugs me a bit actually, is that some games, when you talk about, like you could run a Pathfinder game tomorrow and you could run it for 2 years solid and your characters could get to about level 20 in 2 years if you put it on a sort of medium pace sort of experience points. So it'd be a year probably a year if you played at fast pace. But in that period, even over 2 years, you probably find your characters have only aged, even in my games, so I'm very realistic with the time, they probably only age about a year and a half to 2 years. Because there isn't that sort of downtime, there isn't that sort of winter phase that exists. Bear with me, let's flick that. There isn't that sort of winter phase that exists in many games that Pendragon had. So the characters would literally do a story, they'd have a winter phase, and then they'd come back the next year. So there would be long, and he might not come back at all. So there would be situations where long periods of time would go by and 4 or 5 stories would be done, so a character could age 10 or 12 years. And the other parts of the mechanics that Pendragon brought in, which is another factor that's really important to me, is experience points. Because I would like to see mechanics in games where if you play a game with a character and he or she dies, then a portion of that experience points or something that character skill-wise transfers over to the characters from that family that follow on after it. For me, that's a brilliant set of mechanics. Now, I think the One Ring, which has been recently reviewed, beautifully I may say, really is something I definitely, it's something I've picked up in PDF format and just went for my hard copy of, but it's definitely a game that seems to have those mechanics in it, and it was for those reasons only that I just took a punt and went out and bought the PDF game straight away without anything else, without a question being asked. So what would it be that would have to happen for you to do the same? Or what would you want to see coming out of games that would definitely make you as a DM or player go and pick the damn thing up and buy it? I'd be very curious to see your video responses to this. And it would mean a lot personally if you do respond via a video format, no matter how brief, attach it via a comment to this program, and let's all have a look at what you do. Now, every week from now on, I will be posing questions in this way, and I will be looking forward to your responses, and I'd like to finish on a couple of questions as well at this point. Some of you have asked, will we be continuing with Pathfinder, spell breakdown from levels, I think it's 7, 8, 9, because we did up to level 6. The answer, of course, would be yes. We will continue to do that at some point. I may do those as separate videos. And a number of you, quite a few in fact actually, have surprised me with your emails regarding really what I call power gaming. There's obviously a need for players, as there always is, to power game. Now, let me just quantify my view on power gaming. The players that have contacted me have pretty much contacted me in a way where they've asked for the best tips available for Pathfinder to build from the core books without no splat book support, building good characters so that they can have fun, and these are within the rules. Nothing that deviates from the key rules, and everything that the DM could look at and obviously modify to his or her content. But it's all built from the core book. And I don't see anything wrong with that, and I think it'd be quite good if somebody, and I think it probably have to live by myself, should challenge that and talk about some of the best builds and the reasons, the mechanics behind why, and go into a little bit deeper depth, because that would make sense. So that seems like some of you would like some power gaming tips from the point of view of building better characters, I suppose is a better way, rather than power gaming. That sounds wrong, isn't breaking the game, but probably better gaming tips or more in-depth use of the rules. So we'll probably cover off some of those as well at some point. So for now, all that leads me to do is say, this has been Sean Connors, Akka Outsiders. Happy gaming to you. All the best. Take care of yourselves. Until next time. Bye-bye.